brown. It's kind of crazy to think that cameras were once this like fragile little thing. And I don't necessarily mean in their construction, since this thing is like literally just a metal box with like a hole and a lens in it. But in order to like take a picture, you really had to hold this camera super steady, not change anything, and then just hope that your picture came out okay. It's also why everyone kind of looks like this in all these old photos, because it's actually quite hard to keep up a decent smile for a long enough time before the picture was properly taken. Like, that's just weird to do. And it's because of this like fragile nature of photos and cameras that it's kind of insane that nowadays we have this right here, action cameras, which are all about like one thing and one thing only, which is to be the exact opposite of this thing here. You know how I said that you had to keep this camera as steady as possible? But what if I want to go wild water rafting? Or what about keeping this camera and its film protected at all costs? Because like even the tiniest sliver of light can just ruin the entire picture. But you know, I just really want to play a game of toss the camera in the ocean. These action cameras right here are all about being able to be abused in the worst possible way and still survive to provide you decent footage. And GoPro is like the biggest brand that makes these. Like, these things aren't really called action cameras anymore, they're just GoPros. I've had this GoPro for like a few years now. I think I got it around like 2020 or so. And to be honest, I think it's the best camera you can own. And that's something that's coming from a guy like me, who has like this big ass camcorder right here. And like all of these other cameras, which I think are pretty good, but only this one I would actually recommend to you if you want to shoot some fun, memorable content. And yet, I only use this guy for like a few weeks a year. So how does that work? Well, it's called vacation. Like, all these little clips you're seeing throughout this video were all videos that I shot during my vacation this year with my family and my friends on this little guy right here. And if there's any videos that I shoot which are important to me, it's these ones right here. Now don't get me wrong, like I really do like this YouTube channel, like the content on it, you guys watching it, I really appreciate that. But if I had to choose between keeping all the footage of me just yelling into this camera, or keeping all the footage of me and my family doing like silly things, like 100%, I'd keep the latter. This became like super clear to me at the start of the year when I took all these like old family videos on these tapes and digitized them on the computer. Like these things are so precious. Like I get that there's like this entire generation that grew up with like photo albums, and I get that photos are great. Like they're a perfect way of like capturing one single moment. Like, oh, remember this time, remember these people. However, videos have like this extra dimension to it. It's not just like capturing one moment from which you can remember the people or what you did. It's like you can actually see the people act, move, talk, like it's a time capsule. Not to get like too sentimental here, but my grandma died when I was like actually rather young. And whilst I do have some decent memory, I'd actually kind of forgotten the sound of her voice. And that kind of like bothered me a lot. But then when I was like going over these tapes, like there was a ton of moments where she wasn't shot and I could see her, hear her, and like that's special. But then, what does this all have to do with GoPros, I can hear you say? Like, they don't use all these tapes, so just skip all the sentimental stuff and just get to the point where you like ride a motorcycle into the ocean or fall out of a plane with one of these things. Because that's what they do in GoPro videos, right? I mean, I guess that's true. GoPro really does like to showcase their extreme sports in all of their advertisements. But then, let me ask you this. How often have you gone deep sea diving, like super deep sea diving, to find like some ancient undiscovered shipwreck? How often have you strapped rockets to your car to break some sort of world speed record? Don't get me wrong here, there's a lot that this camera can do, and for these moments, GoPros are fantastic. But it's just for me that I don't really encounter some of these use cases all that much. So for this video, I'm not looking at this camera as a camera for extreme action, once-in-a-lifetime events, but rather as something even more special. A camera for capturing the most precious moments of our life. But then what makes this camera designed for extreme sports a perfect camera for recording drinking tea with your nan? Well, that's because both dune hopping your side-by-side for the desert and drinking tea with cookies at your nan's place are both moments that happen only once. Like, imagine this for a moment, okay? You're out there in the yard with your nan, and you've already noticed that the chair she's sitting on kinda has this like one crooked leg, which is almost at the verge of breaking. Like, we all know there's a one chair. And then, from the corner of the eye, you can see the dog, and it's just starting to make a break for it. So that means there's only one thing for you to do. Get the camera. But which camera do you get? Well, let me introduce you to the contenders. Our first contender right here is the Sony FDR-AX1, a big ass camcorder that records in 4K and costs around $4.5 grand. Then we have the Canon Rebel T6i with like the entire vlogging kit that everyone used in the 2010s, costing around $900. And then our third contestant is this little GoPro right here for about $250. Let's put them all to the test. The test right now will focus on speed. How fast can we get the camera set up and recording to capture this very precious moment? For this, we have the clock, which we start and we stop. I guess you guys all know how a clock works. Also, I got like literally 1 second. That is insane. I can't even try this again. Like, watch this, okay? I'm gonna try this again. No. 108! Like, I cannot do it again. That's insane. That is absolutely crazy. Okay, we're gonna set this up right here. I'm sorry about the little distraction there, but that was just, we're starting out with a Sony camera right here. So for this camera, what we need to do is we need to get it out of its box, because this box right here, you can't even see how big it is. This box right here is like the little carrying case in which you have to keep the camera out as to not damage it. And it was literally the way that I would carry this camera to like events and family vacations. So yeah, let's see how it does. Okay, starting the test in 3, 2, 1, let's go. All right, open the case up right here, then toss it away. Then we get the camera right here. We want to turn it on. We're gonna hold it like this. We're gonna flip open the display like so. Then there we go. We have to open it up, open up. There we go. And then 3, 2, 1, we're recording right now. Okay, 19.46 seconds. I think that's good. I don't know if that's good. It kind of went slow, but it also kind of went fast. Let's get our second contender to see how well this time is. Okay, so the next contender is the Canon T6i, and one thing that's important here is that we're gonna have to undo all of these things right here and then redo them for the test. Now, this may seem a little bit strange, like why do we have to undo and redo it? But it's the same like idea as like the big old camera in the big old box. This is the way that you're gonna be traveling with this, because if you're having this all together, like you never hold it like this and then have it on your hands, because this is such a big thing to carry around. Same thing with the big camera, you always keep it in its case because you're not gonna be walking around with it in your hand all the time. So that's why we're gonna have to assemble this camera first before we can get started with recording. So let's get started in 3, 2, 1, let's go. All right, first off, we mount this stand, which goes pretty fast like this. Then we mount the microphone, which we mount like this, and then we put in right there. In the meantime, we can turn on the camera, then we can flip this screen open, and then once this is ready, we press record and pause. 18.46. Well, that is faster than the other one. They're close, but this one is faster. So let's see now how the GoPro does. So for the GoPro test, here are the steps I need to do before I can turn it on. First things first, what I need to do is I need to pick it up, and that's it. So let's get the test started in 3, 2, 1, let's go. Okay, pick it up, turn on the record button, and then we have it recording. Okay, 4.77. Okay, so 4.77, which is like if we take the other times, that is like the winner is... Oh no, wait, the GoPro won that by far. But why is this test even important? Why are we checking to see like how fast I can get this camera to turn on? Well, let's think back about our example, okay? So you're Nan sitting in a chair with a crooked leg, and out of the corner of your eye, you spot a dog. You know, at the moment that you spot that dog, it's only gonna be like a couple of seconds before the dog has gotten to its target, grabbed the leg, and just ran off with it, and your Nan falls, and everyone has like a good chuckle. If you manage in that brief window of time to get your camera out and record the entire thing, then you've created a fun memory which you guys will later revisit and enjoy. But if you use any of these cameras right here, you'll end up like fumbling around trying to get them to record and just completely miss the moment. And that's only if you have them right by your hands as we had them in the test. Like, sure, these cameras are way better than the GoPro in like many different ways, which is a main part of the reason why I use them to record these videos for this shot right here and this shot right here. However, the big difference here is that I prepare my recordings. Like, it doesn't really matter to me like how long a camera takes to turn on. And even if I mess up a recording, I mess up a line, I can just do a retake. But like, you can't really ask your Nan to like go sit back on the chair again and have the dog come by just because, oh, I didn't have my camera ready. And that's honestly one of the best features of this GoPro right here. As you can see here, that's this thing called like the bunny mode or something, which if you turn that on, basically allows you when the camera is turned off, for you to just like hit this top button right here, and will automatically just turn itself on and start recording straight away. This, combined with the fact that it's so small that you can very easily just pocket it, makes it like the perfect camera for just instantly capturing like the real life moments around you. Which sounds nice now when you're comparing the GoPro to like other cameras. But there's also this like tiny little niche little technology that you may or may not have heard of called smartphones, which is actually quite a good thing to consider. Because remember these little guys right here? Like the little point and shoot cameras that everyone used to have like in the early 2000s? Well, these things, they're kind of extinct right now. Because right now what we have is like we have this super device that has crazy good cameras on the back. Like nowadays, if you want to have good pictures, a smartphone is pretty much all we need, and we carry this thing around all day. So why do we even need to use this here? Similarly, why should we bother with like a GoPro when we can just use our smartphone camera? Well, that's because of two main reasons. First off, like, these action cameras aren't just nice because they turn on super fast, but because they're made to withstand some like extreme abuse, they also have like a slightly higher chance of surviving your average family trip. Like, think back of that wild water rafting video. Like, technically, most smartphones these days are made to be waterproof, unless you like haven't cracked it like mine. Then probably it isn't waterproof anymore. But even so, imagine that you have a brand new phone that's completely water resistant. Would you really want to take that phone with all your contacts, all your like banking payment information, all your entertainment and whatnot? Would you really want to take that? Or like a rafting ride where there's a good chance that it may like slip from your hands and land in the bottom of the river? On the one hand, it is great that these things do like everything nowadays. But on the other hand, because they do everything, we can't really afford to lose them. And whereas phones nowadays have become like these glass sandwiches which can break whenever you hold them the wrong way, like this GoPro was literally made for like physical abuse. Aside from this being a tougher device which is more expendable than your phone, the second reason why I prefer to use a separate camera over using my phone camera on trips is because recording video actually takes quite a bit of power. And whilst phone batteries have actually gotten quite good these days, oh I tell you, you can never have enough power in this thing. As for most people, this is their wallet, their reservations, and their literal navigation throughout these unknown lands. Like, I remember this one time when I was in England, and I had to take this train to go like 2 blocks away in the city I didn't know. And because I was saving power, I hopped on what I thought was the right train. But then I ended up like halfway down the countryside. I mean, it's the nature of these trips to have things go wrong and end up in places where you didn't plan to. That's the fun of adventure. But when this happens, it would absolutely suck if like your one lifeline to the world would be completely dead and out of power because you thought it was fun to record yourself sleeping for an hour. So yeah, these GoPros are absolutely fantastic for recording your trips and your family moments. They turn on in seconds, are more durable and expendable than your smartphone, and above all, because of their small size, they're so easy to just carry around because like you can just store them anywhere. Also, they tend to come with these little mounts where the camera just kind of fits into and then slides into like this. And this thing just slides into pretty much any activity. For instance, the rafting that we did, all these helmets just had these little clamps so we could just like slot this right into and it would record the whole trip. And one thing I forgot to mention is that their field of view is like super wide. What I mean with field of view is kind of like the amount of view that your camera has, like how far it can see. If we compare like these two cameras, like the GoPro is kind of like this, and this camera would be a lot more like that. It's kind of similar to if you put like a milk carton in front of your eyes, if you've ever done that experiment. I don't know how many people done the experiment, but yeah. Actually, it may just be better to show you. So I have these two cameras recording right now, and I'm gonna keep them both at the same distance. So now I'm talking to both these cameras, and as you see, this GoPro right here has a way wider field of view than this camera right here. Like you see a lot more of the room than right here. Which is specifically nice if you tend to record in what I call small areas. So think of the back of a car or in a small room, or if you're walking down the street, then you can just walk with the people you're actually talking with instead of walking 2 meters away, because then this camera can actually capture everyone in the one single shot. Apart from that, because it has such a wide field of view and actually a pretty good stabilization, you don't really need to know exactly what you're looking at, because you can just turn it on and it's kind of pointed in the general direction. And because it can view so wide and it's mostly stable, as long as you kind of just like point it at whatever you want to record it, it's gonna be mostly fine. That said though, this is not a perfect camera. I would not recommend this for every single use case because it definitely does have its flaws. One of the big flaws that I often encounter is that the battery is not the greatest. Like you get about like an hour of recording time out of it, though sometimes because it has this like very quick turn on feature, sometimes it just randomly drains the battery, where you think you can just record something, you click, and it just doesn't want to turn on because it's been in some sort of like turn on state where it's just completely flattened the battery. Because of that, I would really recommend to get a battery pack like this, so you can just do a quick swap of the battery right here, and then end up with a full 100% battery again, which I actually had to do for this recording. Like, that's how often this kind of tends to happen. Furthermore, this thing also doesn't have any zoom, so it works great if you're walking around with people, but if you're somewhere where you want to see like the deer across the river, or you want to zoom into the mountains far away, there's no zoom on this, so you know, you're just going to be stuck with whatever you can see up close. So yeah, that doesn't really make this a camera that you want to use for like shooting a documentary where everything's got to be perfect. But for just general usage, I think like the close-up shot is perfectly fine. And if you really want to get across the mountain, across the river to see that deer far in the distance and also capture whatever is far away, I mean, just use your phone and like one of their 5 telephoto lenses. These things come with so many cameras nowadays that there's probably one that will do the job just fine for the edge case where you have to shoot far away. So yeah, I really do enjoy this thing. I've not been too critical about it, but that's because it's not the point of this video to be a comprehensive review of this one single GoPro 7 Black Hero model, and then that we like A/B tested against other cameras, because like seriously, we haven't really done that in this video. No, what I want to tell you is like these cameras are out there and you can use them for this idea. Because normally I wouldn't really record that much of my trips at all. Like most of the recording that I did before this guy was for this channel, because I like to live in the moment that I'm at, especially when I'm out with my family and friends. I want to enjoy the moment and not be bogged down by holding a camera the entire time in front of my face. And that's the nice thing that this can do, because I just have it in my pocket all the time. The moment I see something happening, I just click on the record button and then just kind of like point it like this. I just have it right here next to me and I can still enjoy the moment, but also record it at the same time. And because of the wide field of view, the stabilization, and the fact that this thing is just quite okay, I can record everything. Also, you don't need to go for the newest GoPro model. Even these older ones, like the ones which are all silver and don't have a screen in the back, their picture quality is still very acceptable and very okay. The only thing that I would watch out for with these is that they always have to be in a case before you can mount them somewhere, and this case doesn't really allow for the microphones to breathe or hear anything. So yeah, that's pretty much the GoPros. I get that GoPro wants to advertise its cameras as these super extreme sport things because that really looks good in advertising. However, I really like this use case of recording your special moments so much more than riding around in a desert or something. That doesn't mean that it can't be used in professional recordings. I know of a lot of professional setups where they actually do use GoPros on a regular basis, and even I have used GoPros for my vlogs from now and then. However, this time I just wanted to focus on the casual use case because I think they're such great cameras for that. Maybe next time when like a new GoPro comes out, we can kind of start to compare the newest one to this one and other cameras as well, and then we can get into like more of the specs and more the nitty-gritty stuff and all the different modes that this has. But for now, I think that this is okay. And if you also think that this video is quite okay and you enjoy what I do on this channel, why don't you go to the description down below and check out Overtime, where for $1 a month I make extra videos where today we're going to be looking at this crazy GoPro knockoff thing, which I bought about 10 years ago or so, but never really used all that much. So I kind of want to see how well this thing stacks up to the thing it's trying to copy, but also against its newer sibling, and to see how well this is aged over time. With that said, I want to say thank you all so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you all next time.